Good morning.
Good morning.
Let's see. Hi. Got the full name over there. All right. It's a great opportunity that I have this morning to be with you. Of course, my family is traveling. And they seem to be having a good time. Lauren was a little sick, but she seems to be doing better. And so they will be back with us soon. But it is a good opportunity that I have, and it's one that I like to enjoy to take the chance to be able to speak. You know, it's a different group, right, than I usually get to talk to. As much as I enjoy talking to the teens, and I certainly do, it's nice to be able to relate with you guys. So this gives me the opportunity to do that. In our class right now with the teens, we're studying the book Until He Returns, written by Jeff Welling. And it's one that the adults are going to have a class that covers whenever he gets to it. You know, knowing Dad's pace, it'll be 2012 sometime. But someday you will be studying that book. And I've been reading it, getting ready for class, and there are a few things that have really jumped out at me and have made an impact on things that I think about, in ways that I think about my relationship and my walk with God. Because what the book does is it talks about different points, different messages that Jesus gave to his disciples to be aware of and to be ready for while he was gone. And I think it's very applicable for how we interact and how we go on this Christian walk that we have and things that we need to be doing while we wait for Christ to return. And so this morning, this message comes from that book, from an idea there that I don't think we spend a lot of time talking about or thinking about. When my sister was younger, they taught her that the word hate was bad. That you weren't supposed to say the word hate. And so what she became is she became some sort of a language police, right? As little children have a tendency to do. And so I would return home from college and I would be around the house and without even thinking, I would say something like, "I hate those White Sox." And she would say, "Oh, you shouldn't say hate." And as a little, 5-year-old, they have that whiny little voice, right? That they can irritate you by saying you're being policed by your small little sister. "Oh, you shouldn't say hate." And he wouldn't even think about it. He would say something like, "Oh, I would really hate for that to happen." "Oh, don't say hate." And so what it did is it made you aware of saying the word hate. And you may not even recognize how many times that comes up in your vocabulary. But when you have somebody who's watching you, you recognize it a lot more. And so you say things like, "I really dislike." You fool her, right? It's the same thing as hate, but you say it a different way. But it gives us that idea that hate is something that permeates our society. That it's something that really is out there in the world that maybe we don't pay enough attention to. This idea of hate. You see, hate is a very powerful drug. It breeds inside of us. Because it feeds on two emotions that are powerful in and of themselves, fear and envy. That we hate a lot of things that we are afraid of. Like spiders, right? We hate spiders because we're afraid of them. And we hate things that we are jealous of. The things that we want, maybe, in this life, we grow to hate the people who have them. And so hate becomes this powerful force. Because it's not something that happens in the brain. Hate's a gut reaction. Hate's something that I respond to. And we see in this world, in this life, that this drug of hate can permeate to the point that we see things like hate crimes. We call them that way because they're things that don't make sense to us. There are people who despise another group of people so much that they are willing to commit terrible offenses against them. Because hate is powerful in how it affects us and our lives. What about being hated? Do you like to be hated? Do you like to have somebody who just, really can't stand you? No, we don't. And so much so that it surprises us when it happens, right? You hear from a coworker and says, "Wow, Bill really doesn't like you." What? Me? How could somebody hate me? I'm so likable. Right? It doesn't make sense to us. Hate doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense for us to be hated by somebody. Impossible. It surprises us. It shocks us because we don't like to think of people hating us. But this morning I might surprise you with what I say. Because you know what Jesus says about being hated? He tells us to get used to it. He says when people hate you, hey, get used to it. Because it's going to happen. It's going to happen to people who follow him. We're going to be hated. And although that shocks us and surprises us, that's what we need to prepare for, and that's what we're going to take a look at this morning. Take a look at this verse in John chapter 15. If the world hates you, and you know that it has hated me, before it has hated you. If you were of the world would love its own. But because you are not of the world, but I chose you out of the world, because of this, the world hates you. Jesus is telling his disciples here to get ready. Because the world has disliked me first, and it's going to hate you too. And I think this is a powerful point for us as Christians to remember in our walk, just like the disciples had to remember, that when the world hates us, guess what? Get ready for it, because it has hated Jesus first. And that's what we see here in John chapter 15. And so through this, he imparts some wisdom to his disciples and imparts some wisdom to us about why. Why does the world hate us like they hated him? Why does the world hate us in the way that they do? And so these principles we're going to talk about today. And that's what I mentioned. I don't think that this is a topic we discuss very much. We're not ready to be hated by the world, I don't believe. Because I think it's that fear of being disliked, that fear of being hated, that prevents us from telling other people about Christ. Well, I don't really think that I could talk about it at work because people wouldn't like that. I don't think that I could talk about it with my friends because what if they get upset? You see, we're not prepared to be hated for what Christ sent us to do. So we'll look at a couple principles that God says and that Jesus says to his disciples and says to us. And the first that we see here is that they hated me first. Right? The fact that why do people hate the Christians? Why do people hate us in our lives? Well, it's because they hated Jesus first. And they hated me. Now, this may come as a surprise to you if you don't study the Bible very often. But guess what? Not everybody loved Jesus. When you look through the New Testament, you see that not everybody thought that Jesus was as amazing as he truly was. Not everybody loved him. In fact, even when he did good things, people still got upset.